Welcome to our Google Hangout, which is the unedited version of our podcast. This will later become our podcast, and we are having a super exciting show today because we have Vinnie Tortorich with us. Say hi, Vinnie.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, that's awesome. And JT's with me. Hello, JT. Say hi, Jack.
Hi, Carol. Hi, Vinny.
Hi, guys.
All right, so I'm going to start the podcast, but I just want to make sure folks that are watching live know that this is the unedited version, and then the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and other ways will drop very shortly. So here we go. Welcome to the Fat2Fit HQ podcast. We are your hosts, Carol and JT of the Firearms Radio Network. In this podcast, we are chronicling our journeys from fat to fit. We talk about pursuing a healthier lifestyle, not only in diet, but in all areas of life. And we have a treat this week. We have the podcast famous personal trainer to the stars, the world's angriest trainer. We have Vinnie Tortorich with us today. Hey, Vinnie.
How are you doing, Carol?
Oh my God, very good. I'm so excited that you're here. This is a big deal.
Don't be too overwhelmed. I mean, I'm big in podcasting, which we find out every day we're not considered any part of any other entertainment. If you think about it, we're the bottom of the barrel of any kind of media or entertainment, period.
Hey, man.
But I mean, look at it. I'm looking at you. You're in your bedroom with
my son's
bed
bedroom
behind you and a stuffed animal, or your son's bedroom. That's where we are in the world. What people don't realize is how many people actually do pay attention to this. You know, we have, I know from my show, we have several 100,000 people that tune into every show, which is, you know, bigger than, if you look at top 50 radio stations, they would kill for those numbers.
Absolutely.
But yet we're still considered the people in our bedrooms, which you are, you know, just kind of playing around. We're kind of like, what was that Saturday Night Live skit with the two guys on television?
We're Wayne's World.
We're Wayne's World. This is the Wayne's World of, you know, if people don't realize what we're talking about right now, because you don't see it much anymore, but when cable first came out, they had to allow a certain amount of, I guess, free time for anyone in the community that wanted to put a show up could put a show up.
Yeah,
and people were actually doing shows from their basement. And some of those shows became famous. You know, very few of them, but some of them became famous. And that's kind of what podcasting is now.
Oh, yeah.
You know, some people have 5 listeners and some have, you know, 10,000. Or Adam Carolla, I think, gets 1 million a month.
Isn't that amazing? And you know what? Our show's such a niche between a ton of our listeners are gun guys, and we're on the Firearms Radio Network. And within that, we have your people who are really trying to get healthier. So, again, like you're saying, if advertisers knew the niche, I mean, yeah, maybe it's not a ton of people, but it's a very specialized group that is real important. I used to be in advertising, and if I can get people who are going out of their way to find us because they like this crossover, that's way better than shooting out to masses that aren't in your niche.
Well, can I speak to that for a moment? And Jack is going to know something about this because I think Jack is actually a fan of my show.
Absolutely.
But when you know, I created my show because I had written a book. And I realized that after I wrote the book that no one in creation actually knew who I was. So I started a podcast on the suggestion of my nephew. I didn't even know what the word podcast meant 2.5 years ago. I started this podcast, and we let it run for about a year, and then I started talking about my book. And meanwhile, my agent took my book out to the top 22, you know, publishing companies. You know, the Simon & Schusters and the HarperCollinses and, you know, all of these people, Penguin Press, and they all categorically turned my book down, saying that, number one, what's a podcast? You know, at the time I had like 100,000 listeners, which is a lot in podcast world.
It is.
And they were like, well, what's a podcast, number one? And number two, we can't, you know, we like this book. 2 companies actually asked me to take the book, Fitness Confidential, and they offered me a 2-book deal because they felt like it was 2 books in one. And I refused to do that. I said I wanted to give people bang for buck. That's always my thing. Give people more bang for the buck.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's why I like shooting 22 so much. It's as fun as shooting a high-powered rifle, but it's a lot less money. So that's what I was offering, 2 books into one. They wanted to give me, 2 of the companies wanted to give me a 2-book deal. And they said, well, you only have 100,000 followers. And I kept saying, yes, but I have 100,000 people who are really, really into what I do. I would rather have that than being, like I was just on a Carol Alt show a couple of weeks ago, and they were boasting that they have 500,000 people who tune in weekly. That's, my show now gets 350 to 375,000 people monthly, right? So I have all of these people who are finding me because they want to be there. Mm-hmm. So ostensibly, my show is bigger than their show because their show could just happen to be on in someone's living room and no one's watching.
Yeah.
When someone tunes into my show or your show, these are people who want to be there and are really absorbing what you're saying. So your 10,000 or 50,000 or 100,000 people are worth way more than 1 million people who are really not caring what you're doing.
Absolutely.
I don't mean to go off on a diatribe, but that's kind of what I do.
No, I think that's great. Jack, you can talk to that, right, Jack? And I've tuned in a few times, but I have to give it over to Jack because Jack's been asking to have you on as a guest for a while. Jack, talk just real quickly, let Vinnie know where his message fits in your journey.
Well, I kind of started a journey, Vinnie. I've lost about 65 pounds, going actually 75, going a combination. Started off paleo, but it was hard to kind of follow and really kind of understand. And then and the whole NSNG thing just resonated with me. Pretty simple to understand. Fitness Confidential was an awesome. It was as good a book as it is, which I did. It's a better audio book. So if you're looking to buy one, buy both. But the audio book was awesome, and I know that it was up for some awards and stuff. But just a big fan. Real guy that just kind of keeps it simple and shoot straight, and that's what I really appreciate about listening to the podcast and just keeping up with Vinnie. So it's an honor to have you on, and I'm the novice of this whole bunch. So if I butcher this, you'll know I'm just a fan that Carol talked me into hosting occasionally. So.
Well, I'm very excited to have you. Go ahead, Vinnie.
Well, thank you. I get flustered when I hear that. I'm one of the guys out there that take phone calls. Like people can actually go to my website, and it's a paid service, but you can call and talk to me for an hour. And Jack, your story is not uncommon. The only uncommon part is that sometimes I'll hear not 60 pounds, I'll hear 100 or 150 or 250 pounds of people, just off of this book, and it's only been out a year and a half, and they've done nothing else except cut out sugars and grains. And they've lost that much weight. Where one guy, these stories, I hate to sound like Richard Simmons, but I read these emails every night, and I sit here at the same desk with tears in my eyes because I'll hear things like my doctor told me I had to have bariatric surgery, which is basically telling a human being you cannot be trusted with a stomach, and we know what that means from being gun people. Oh, you can't be trusted with a gun. Really? You're telling me I can't be trusted with a I got my first firearm when I was like 8. You're telling me I can't be trusted with it now? I'm 52. What's different? Yeah. The same with the stomach. Everyone wants to jump to bariatric surgery, which is another way of causing calorie in, calorie out. And, there may be medical reasons for some people to do that, like they're so close to the edge of dying that is the last resort. But they'll have people who are only, and I say only, 100 pounds overweight, and they'll say, oh, well, you qualify for this, and insurance will pay for it, therefore you should do it, which you're cutting out a major organ. You're cutting out your stomach. It makes no sense. Calorie in, calorie out doesn't work. Cutting that stomach out is the same as going on Jenny Craig or Weight Watchers, where you're saying that, oh, I can lose weight just by cutting down on calories. If it were that simple, everyone would lose weight. Jack, I'll ask you, how many times did you try a calorie in, calorie out starvation type diet in your life?
Oh, every chance I got between till I was 48, 49 years old. So it was whatever my wife was trying, I would try, or I would try something on my own, and in the end, nothing really resonated until I just really, in a nutshell, just cut the sugars, cut the grains. It's not perfect. I'm not a militant about it. Occasionally, I put life into living, which you'll have to explain what that is, Vinny, to the crowd. But by and large, it's just changed. Just kind of how I eat. Not hungry, not starving, and it's just been just a transformation. Not just in as big as the weight loss has been. I've told Carol, I've told others that. Just the energy level, the mind clarity, I mean, all the benefits that came along with it actually have been better than just than going down a few waist sizes, which was more than a few, by the way.
Yeah, we hear that a lot, that the energy levels are a lot higher when people just cut grains out, especially, but also the sugars. And what life into living actually means. Carol, do you know what it means at all?
No, please explain.
It's something I say at the end of every podcast. My first trainer, I talk about him incessantly in the book, a guy named Joe Bonadonna. He had a business card. He owned a gym when I was a kid. I was the only employee in the gym. It was just me and Joe. And his business card said, "Put life into living." And he really meant that. Joe is no longer with us. He's just a great guy. And I close every podcast by saying, put life into living and do it with enthusiasm, because it's not about, the first thing people think of when you say, wait a minute, no more grains, no more sugars, that means I can never have ice cream? No. If you're somewhere and they're serving up the best gelato in the world, you enjoy the gelato. You just don't bring a gallon of it home and have it every night.
Okay. Right.
That's the big difference. Can I never have pizza again in my life? That's a grain. Well, I was in New York about 4 months ago, and I was with my writing partner, Dean Laurie, and we walked into what was considered the best pizza joint in the world. And it was apparently the first pizza joint in New York ever. So this place is world famous. Am I going to walk in there and not try the pizza? Heck no. I'm going to have that.
Right.
But I'm not eating pizza as part of my diet every day. As a matter of fact, I probably didn't have pizza for a year before that, and I certainly haven't had it since. But, that's what we're talking about. When I was a kid, when I was a kid, see, things were different. When I was a kid, you had a Coca-Cola. I could tell you, I had about 70 ounces of Coke a year. And here's how I know that. Cokes used to come in 7-ounce bottles. Jack, I guess you're old enough to remember that, right?
Yeah, we're the same age, so yes.
Yeah, so the 7-ounce Coke was like, it came in a glass bottle, and I would have a Coke every time my dad took me to Frank DeNino's barbershop to get a haircut. And they were 10 cents back in the day. See, they were cheap back then. You see, everything was a nickel. Everything was less than a sawbuck. But, I would have a Coke after I got a haircut, and I was more interested in the Coke coming out of the machine than I was actually drinking the Coke, because I thought it was a miracle that you put a couple of, like a dime in, you pull this big handle down, and this Coke would just fall out of the bottom. And, I would have that Coke, and I can kind of remember back that I never finished the Coke. So if I got 10, 12 haircuts a year at 7 ounces of Coke, I had about 70 ounces of Coke per year. Now, let's look at today. You can walk into any 7-Eleven, and a 70-ounce Coke, refillable Coke for free, is normal, right? I mean, that's one serving today. That was my serving for a whole year when I was a kid.
Oh, my God.
And we try to figure out where the problem is. And that's what I do. I try to give people reasons for knowing, back in 1962, the year that Jack and I were born, the average American ate about 90 pounds of sugar per person per year. We're edging close to 200 pounds of sugar per person per year, and we cannot figure where the problem is.
Yeah. Yeah. Vinny, the NSNG, I just want to make sure because I want to play devil's advocate here. The NSNG is like the way to keep it kind of simple. I've heard Jack say before, it's no sugar, no grain. If you can kind of stick to that, like you said, not 100% and forever, but you live that way most of the time. Is that correct?
Yeah. NSNG, no sugars, no grains, is just it's not a diet. It's a lifestyle. And Jack is a great example of that. When you go on Jenny Craig, you're on Jenny Craig. I keep using them, but if you go on the Cambridge diet, you're on the Cambridge diet. If you go, paleo is like a religion. You have two religions. You have paleo and you have vegan. It's almost like right wing and left wing. Mm-hmm. And by the way, they almost fall in that category when you look at it. Which is crazy, and somehow NSNG falls right in the middle of the two. If you did a Venn diagram of the two circles, NSNG falls right in the middle of the Venn diagram because we somehow have bridged the gap between vegans and paleo, and we have both sides going, wait, this guy might have something here. Mm-hmm. We're not saying that you have to eat strictly paleo, and we're not saying that you have to be a vegan. You could be either and still eat NSNG. And I'm not trying to buy people into this system or program. I really have nothing to sell other than a book, and people are buying the book. So what am I doing here? Well, the bottom line is I'm just trying to help people, and I think Jack can attest to this. It's not a whole lot that I'm selling. You could go to VinnieTortorich.com, and the frequently asked questions there will let you know that you can get all the information you want for free. You don't have to buy my back catalog of podcasts. Yeah. There's like 300 or so in the back catalog for like $4 a year. So I know some crazy number. Or you don't have to buy the book. You can literally go to my website and get it all for free. And if that's not enough for you, you could go to Facebook. And there are Facebook groups with my name on it. Vinnie Tortorich's plant-powered, no sugars, no grains, and Vinnie Tortorich's, no sugars, no grains group. And some of these groups have like 6,000 people in them. And they're free. I don't own those groups, by the way. They have my name on it, and I have nothing to do with it. I'm a member too, like everyone else.
That's cool. That speaks to us, right, Jack? Because we're all about community.
Absolutely. And, Vinnie, one of the questions that I had, I was going to ask you the question about the paleo, because if you listen at first, I mean, you're a lot of what you do personally sounds a lot like paleo, maybe with the exception of some dairy and stuff like that. But I was kind of going to wonder how your world has been able to kind of bridge that gap, and because usually the paleo and vegan vegetarian community are opposite ends of the spectrum, and yet you have both. So I was kind of curious as to why you think that is, more specifically, because you've done that without ostracizing either group.
Yeah, I think it's because I didn't try to do it. I wasn't. If you would have told me when Fitness Confidential came out that I would be pulling in as many vegans as I am paleo guys to go, hey, maybe this guy's got a point, I would have said no, that's crazy talk. That's like trying to get a guy who wants to buy the new Corvette to agree with the new Chrysler Hellcat engine. People are going to be polarized, and somehow we've fallen right in the middle of that. And I don't know how that happened. But it happened, and it was kind of a lucky, kind of happy coincidence. But I wish I had a better answer than that. If you can figure it out, Jack, let me know.
All right. Hey, I have a question for you, Vinny. I'm going to steal it from you. I was listening to one of your podcasts about a while back. I can't remember. It was a one-on-one, but it was actually two guys. And you had asked them the question, other than Fitness Confidential, what 3 books would you recommend to somebody who was trying to learn something about health, nutrition? And so I kind of thought I would flip the tables on you and ask you, what would your 3 books be, other than, of course, Fitness Confidential?
Okay, but besides Fitness Confidential, I would tell people top 3. You kind of put me on the spot, but I can do this. I would tell people to read Gary Taubes' second book on the subject called Why We Get Fat and What to Do About It. I would warn you against the first book, Good Calorie, Bad Calorie, which is the same book, but Gary, who's a buddy of mine, got so technical in that book that you will fall asleep trying to read it.
It's more for doctors. It's
yeah, it really was. He wasn't
academic.
writing to regular people. He was writing to doctors. You're absolutely correct, Carol. And so I would tell you, get the second book, Why We Get Fat and What to Do About It, because kind of like what I did in Fitness Confidential, he kind of gives it to you in a story form that anyone can understand. A second book I would recommend would be Fat Chance by Robert Lustig, Lustig. That book is great for tons of reasons, but this guy is probably one of the foremost authorities in the world. He's a medical doctor here in California. He's one of the foremost authorities on childhood obesity on the planet today, and that book is just fascinating. Another easy read would be probably The Art and Science of Low Carbohydrate Living by Stephen Finney and Jeff Volek. They also have an athletic version of that same book for people who want to train to be an athlete. So those would be the top three. But if you want to go a little deeper and you don't like to read, Robert Lustig also has a viral video that's 90 minutes long, which, as you know, anything viral usually is, a squirrel falling off of a skateboard, and it's 30 seconds long. But this is a doctor talking for 89 minutes, and it's called Sugar, the Bitter Truth by Robert Lustig. You can find it on YouTube. I would tell you to go there. You see, my answers are always longer than you think, right, Jack?
Right.
And I would also tell people, a guy who's become a good friend of mine, Ivor Cummins, has a video out there called The Cholesterol Conundrum, which I think is well worth it. And he just released another one yesterday on vitamin D. So if you guys want to get educated and really learn, the truth about what's going on with your body, go look up those guys. Look up Ivor Cummins. These people will set you straight.
So Vinny, if NSNG, I mean, a lot of times is spent on the nutritional side of when we talk about no sugars, no grains, and plenty of vegetables and all those kinds of things. But what is the Vinnie Tortorich philosophy on working out and exercise?
Well, every time I walk on stage, the first thing that comes out of my mouth, because when I walk on stage, everyone knows that I'm a trainer to celebrity types. And so they're waiting to hear some kind of, great secret to come out of my mouth. And the first thing I tell them is exercise is a very poor way to lose weight, which no one wants to hear from a fitness trainer, because we think that, exercise is the only way to lose weight, when in fact it's very poor. And Carol, you have this concerned look on your face. So let me answer the question to your concerned look.
You know where I'm going.
Exercise, if you can lose weight by exercising, that would suggest that calorie in, calorie out actually works. Because losing weight through exercise means that you're causing a calorie deficit that you're not replenishing, which is a recipe for failure. Just like when you cut your stomach out, you're now taking in less calories than your body needs to run. Therefore, you're not getting the phytonutrients and the macronutrients you need to live. Yada, yada, yada. Trying to exercise weight off, and people have done it successfully, just like people have lost weight on Weight Watchers successfully, because they've learned to starve themselves to a certain level to where they can lose that weight. If they went back to regular food, they would gain the weight back. If you stop exercising, you would gain the weight back. It's a very poor way to do it. But exercise is also the most important thing you can do for your health, besides sleep. And I say that because our bodies weren't meant to be sedentary. We were meant to move around, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's walking, 30, 40 minutes a day, your body was meant to move. Doing yard work, doing work around the house, you have to exercise, you have to move. You don't exercise, you're in trouble. Think about people who are in the hospital, and they're not ambulatory, they have to be in bed. They have to start moving those beds up and down. In some cases, if people are in bed, with comas and stuff, they'll strap them in and turn them over, just so that the blood doesn't settle in their backs, in the bottom part of their bodies. We have to move, and the more we move, the better off we are. So if you go past housework into, running 5Ks, or, just jogging around the block, or riding a bicycle, to the market, or riding it for, fitness purposes, or getting a gym membership and using that gym membership, that's, we have to move, but never look at it as a way to lose weight.
So, Vinnie, a lot of your audience, and even in your past, you're an ultra guy, and I listen to your podcast and listen to some of these.
What does that mean? What does ultra mean?
Well, it's go ahead, Vinnie. I'll let you explain, and then I was going to ask a question about it. But go ahead, Vinnie. I'll let you take that.
Ultras, it's kind of a throw word now, but in running, an ultra is anything that goes beyond a marathon. So a marathon is 26.2 miles. If you go 27 miles, you've effectively have run an ultra. It's an ultra distance. But most ultra distances don't go 1 mile over, say, a marathon. Most of them, the shortest ones are usually 50K, which is like 31.5 or 32 miles. Yeah. 50 milers are common for people to get started. And then, you have the 100K, which is like 60 some odd miles, and then the 100 milers, and some of them go up from there.
So, Vinnie, what I was going to ask you about that was that I know that you have a lot of audience people, guests, yourself, and others. But when it comes right down to it, is that good for you to go that hard, that long?
The real answer is probably not. Just to be, if I was being perfectly candid, look, I'm a guy who I have never run an ultra, but I've ridden a lot of ultras. I started doing them in the early 1990s. In the 24-hour mountain bike events. And Carol, for you, because you look confused about the ultra game, that's when the race starts at noontime one day. You're riding up and down the mountain for 24 hours on a mountain bike until the next day, and they count your laps around the mountain. So is that healthy? Probably not. Probably not. But can it be done? Yeah, people do it all the time. I take whole years off. Some people just do it and do it and do it and do it, and they really start to look bad. Yeah. They start to look somewhat decrepit. I'm already decrepit enough from my years of playing football, which that's another sport I wouldn't suggest to anyone. When you look at the brain injuries and everything that we know now, the fact that I'm 52 and I can still remember names like Lustig and Gary Taubes is amazing to me. Because I know guys who are sitting on a couch with drool coming down their chin that I played ball with.
Wow. Well, okay, so then this brings me, we're at a point, Vinnie, in our community, and we're much more of a community than anything else. We're a ton of people. We're all together on MyFitnessPal and Facebook and different places, just trying to keep our head in the game, while each person tries to figure out what's the recipe for themselves. And it might be counting calories, and it might be no sugar, no grains. Everybody's doing something a little bit different. A lot of us feel pretty certain that cutting out empty carbs is a big part of the equation.
Right.
But many of us went to this, okay, I'm going to eat more healthy fats, and I'm going to eat more, I guess it brings us up because we know that exercise is an important part to keep us motivated, if nothing else, but it's much more about the food than anything. I'm getting so much feedback right now, and I'm right there with these people, that once I stopped counting calories and tried to go to no sugar and no grains and just listen to my body, we all started gaining weight.
Really?
Well, but here's the thing. Most people are pretty honest that the amount of food that we're eating seems a little bit ridiculous. You know what I mean? We're trying to find that place where you're not hungry anymore. And a lot of us aren't finding that. Some of us are doing carb night. And so once a week, we eat a whole bunch of carbs and try to get back on it the next day. There's a lot of places we're sabotaging ourselves. But
I see this all the time, especially in the Facebook groups, where people go, I've been no sugars, no grains, or I've been doing paleo and I just gained weight. And I literally sometimes will contact these people and ask them, point blank, give me a phone call. And I will take free phone calls from these people and interview them, because I'm interested to know how this is happening. And I always come up with some version of what you just said. I will get, number one, well, you know, I have a cheat day. Tell me about that cheat day.
Oh my
Well,
God.
it's every Sunday, and on Sunday I will have anything and everything I want, period. And they'll start describing, in the morning I will have a stack of pancakes with syrup, and then after that, you know, by mid-morning I want to have, you know, a chocolate bar because I love Snickers bars, and by noontime I'm having pasta primavera, and blah, 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 blah. And by nighttime I finish it off with a Haagen-Dazs. Well, you can't figure out how you're gaining weight? Well, I only do it 1 day a week. The other 7 days I don't do it.
Right.
And I explained to them, okay, let's take that scenario, because I'm going to do another scenario after this that will drive you even crazier, because I think I just hit a chord with you.
You did.
Number one, if you do that on Sunday, you've now caused your body to release a ton of hormones that's trying to cover what you've done. Your body is now trying to correct the fact that you made the hugest mistake in your life. And it's releasing insulin on top of insulin, which will eventually make you become insulin resistant. It will also release ghrelin and leptin. That's why on that day you get hungry over and over and over. It's like you went to a Chinese restaurant and 5 minutes later you're hungry again, because ghrelin makes you feel cavernous and hungry no matter how full your stomach is. It's a protection hormone for us to continue to eat during times of famine. It makes us want to eat more leaves, more carbohydrates. So that's all going on. All of that insulin that you're releasing and that cortisol is causing your body to become inflamed. Every cell in your body is becoming inflamed at that point. And your body, your blood can only hold about 1 teaspoon of sugar. 1 teaspoon. Think about that.
That's nothing.
That's nothing. So after your blood is full, your brain will send a message and say, hey, Carol has all of the sugar she can use in her blood, yet even though I don't know what to do with those pancakes, she just gave me a Snickers bar and she's about to give me a pint of Haagen-Dazs. So I need to start changing all of this sugar into something. And what it changes it into is a long-chain triglyceride. And if you read Gary Taubes' book, Why We Get Fat and What to Do About It, he gives a great example of this. A long-chain triglyceride is a fat, right? That goes into your fat cell. Think of your fat cell as being like a bank. You're always putting money into that bank or pulling it out. It's not just sitting there. If you take a medium chain triglyceride or a short chain, those will go in and out very easily. But when you convert sugar to a triglyceride, it becomes a long chain triglyceride. As Gary describes it in his book, it's like taking a bed, putting it in a bedroom, setting the bed up in the bedroom, and then trying to push it out through the door after it's set up. It's in there. It's in the fat cell. It does not want to come out. Your body will continue to trade the medium chain and the short chain triglycerides. It will never pull that big long chain triglyceride out. It's stuck, right? So you get fat, and guess what? Monday comes and Tuesday comes, and your body's still fighting against that. By Wednesday and Thursday, your body just starts to become normal again. You might notice your favorite jeans start to fit well again. You feel great by Friday. By Sunday, you're on your cheat day again, and you're shoving more fat into that system, and that's fat that's never going to come out.
Oh, good night.
Right?
Yes.
So do you see what happens with the big-time cheat day?
It was yesterday, Vinny.
I figured as much.
I'm so screwed. but I mean, I get that. I guess. I don't know. I was looking over the whole week, as most of us are, and most of us that follow Kiefer, and I know a lot of people that do have a lot of success with carb night and carb backloading and stuff, but I think people are different, and everybody's unique. So everybody's sensitivity is different, and everybody's activity level is different. So I think for those of us that are just bewildered by why it's not working for us, I think we might do ourselves some good by pulling back on that crazy carb night.
You can't look at N=1 experiments because, you know, I talk to Timothy Noakes a lot, Dr. Noakes. I talk to, love the T-shirt. I thought you were showing me your boobies, but you're actually showing me. Can I see them again?
It's a shirt. It's a shirt that says N=1.
There we go. Look at that, Jack.
I told you guys, he's like Howard Stern. Okay, let's move on before I have trouble.
It just became my show all of a sudden. It just became my show, right, Jack?
Yeah, that's right.
We talked about making you not make it your show. I can't mark this one explicit. So you said
anyway,
N equals one is on my shirt because
right.
BJJ came in and gave me the shirt. So let's keep going.
Well, I have I've had the great Timothy Noakes on my show several times, and Peter Attia and Gary Taubes, and all three of them said the same thing. I think that it's about 20% of the population that can literally eat anything and not gain a pound whether they exercise or not. 20%. Think about that. Gary Taubes, I think, says it was 25. Peter Attia says 30. I think Timothy Noakes says 25 also. We're all in the same ballpark of people who can get away with that. But warning to those people, even though they could be perfectly lean, they can still get things like fatty liver disease, which, by the way, used to only be for people who are alcoholics, like severe alcoholics. Now we have people who are perfectly lean who are dying of heart attacks because they have so much calcium buildup in their heart from all of the stress that they're putting on with sugars and grains. And we have fatty liver disease. And by the way, if you're in California, we've outlawed goose pate here because the only way you can make a goose's liver fat is by force feeding them grains. And we decided that that was bad for animals, yet we decided that it's perfectly okay for human beings. That makes absolutely no sense to me. So whether people gain weight or not, you can't take those N=1 experiments because they could be hurting themselves in a silent way that you have no idea about. Fortunately, you have a pair of genes that stop you every week from killing yourself. But you need to take it to the next level. You can't have cheat night, and carb backloading is a myth as far as I'm concerned.
Really?
A myth. I know a lot of people go, oh, yeah. And by the way, a lot of the stuff you read on Google, and we get all this stuff on the internet, and it's like, yeah, burn more than you need, and then you can carb backload, and you'll be fine. What are you doing? Why are we trying to cheat a system that's perfect? Our bodies are perfect. Why are we going to cheat that system? If we were talking about guns, guys try to do this stuff with guns all the time. They'll take a perfectly good gun, and they'll start changing out the barrel, and they'll start, jeweling this and jeweling that. And before you know it, you have a totally different gun, but you had a perfectly good gun to begin with. Why did you start messing with it? Was it really the barrel, or is it the fact that you're a crappy shot?
Okay, we need to get you on some of the other shows for sure.
I've been known to change out a barrel or two and jewel some stuff, but that's just me.
So Vinny, the long chain triglyceride example that you gave, can you ever get rid of it? I mean, and if so, what does it take to get there?
Yeah, what am I going to do about yesterday?
Yesterday's over. Tomorrow's another day. I just did two cliches all into one.
I know.
To answer both of your questions, Jack, your answer will also help Carol. You get to those long chain triglycerides after you don't have a ton of short chain triglycerides going in and out. Your body will eventually pull them out.
Okay.
But if you're continuing to put them in, it's like, look, Carol, we all have enough fat cells in our body that if we maxed out every fat cell, we can stuff a couch. That is not hyperbole. That's the truth.
Oh.
We can all be 500 pounds. I'm going to Louisiana next week. I haven't been down there in a year, and I'm pretty sure that everybody I saw a year ago will be fatter than they were when I was there last year. That's a guarantee.
Oh my God. That's
long-chain triglycerides. That's a lot of fried foods. That's a lot of grains. That's a lot of sugar.
Mm-hmm. So then you're saying if we stick with it, and
right.
You're talking to a gal in her upper 40s, and hormones are playing a part. I know they are, because this is all about hormones, right? So what's your suggestion to us?
Do you talk about that in your show? Are you going through the change?
I'm almost there. I'm coming up on it. Things are getting wonky.
Okay.
But not yet. But it's in the next year or two, I know. I can
tell. It won't be a fun time, and it's going to be difficult, and things are going to get even that much more nutty for you. It could be a couple of years, and you really have to pay attention to it now. It would be great for you to get on track now, so that when it does happen, you don't have to contend with the grains that are going to just exacerbate a problem.
Okay. So try to get my ducks in a row, because hormones are going to be, I mean, they're already, the hormonal changes and everything start happening well before menopause. And in women, I think any age, you're a different hormonal person at different points of the month. So we have to be a lot more patient about seeing change, I feel like.
Absolutely. And I see Jack falling asleep because we're doing hormone talk. But yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. You know, this is the time when you really, really have to start paying attention to it. And you will see differences. Look, if you want to have, I will offer you a free private phone call. Free. I normally don't do that. And if I were you, I would accept it, and I will get you straight.
I will totally accept it. I totally need help. We were doing great, and when I took over this show, and Jack too, we were going gangbusters. But both of us and many people in our listening audience and community out there, something happened over the fall. People are calling it the ancestral time of circadian rhythms, time of year, where everybody just sort of fell off the wagon, and we invited a lot of carbs back into our lives, and we've seen ill effects from that. And then it's hard because they're so addictive to get back on track, and we're in the middle of that right now.
I can tell you, you know, my assistant Wendy, who you've been in contact with.
Yes.
She has some physical. Can we talk about that, Wendy? She's off camera here.
Yes, yes.
Hey, lady.
You want to pop on camera for it? No, you want to pop on camera?
Well, if it's okay that I just got out of bed.
Yeah, she just got out of bed. This is what she looks like.
Hey, lady.
Nice.
All right. You want to tell the audience what your problem is?
I have Parkinson's disease. I've had it for 5 years. I've been doing no sugar, no grains for a good part of that 5 years, and I take meds, but very little, and I'm completely asymptomatic.
Wow.
Completely. I have no tremor, nothing.
Wow.
She's supposed to be shaking and doing all this stuff.
And I do Pilates 3 days a week. I teach dance, and I run about 8 to 10 miles a week.
Rock on, Wendy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm a big fan.
And she doesn't look bad for 82, right?
Wendy!
You have no idea what working for him does for me.
that age that's the only thing aging her is working for you.
But, you know, I mean, she's got Parkinson's. And, you know, there are people at her stage, she should be on all kinds of medication. But, and by the way, every time she does a little cheating, she feels it. She feels it the next day. You know, symptoms come back. You know, I could tell you when she's had ice cream. She walks in and that's her shooting hand.
Wow. Okay.
Vinnie, one more. I'll tell you a quick story that you'll appreciate. So when I was losing all this weight, my brother-in-law is a medical doctor. He's a physical rehabilitation and rehab doctor. Was a former bodybuilder before he broke his neck, and he's a spinal cord doc now. It's an incredible story. He's done really, really well for himself. And when I lost all the weight, he was asking me how I did it, and I started to tell him, and he just didn't believe it. Everything he'd been taught in med school, you know, 3 squares a day, the whole food pyramid, the whole deal. And so I started kind of referring him to some of the different podcasts, some of the different people, some of the names that you've mentioned, and he wouldn't just listen to them. He would then go and pull the studies that people, because he was a doctor, and he didn't, right. You know, he didn't necessarily believe that what I was doing was nothing. You know, anything more than a fad. And since then, he's been testing his own blood and doing all kinds of things, following a higher fat, very low carb, NSNG type lifestyle as a medical doctor, and his blood work is incredible. He, to the point in which he's conflicted now, because in a hospital, the dietitians don't necessarily even know anything about what we're talking about, and so he's looking for. He's trying to get his dietitians and nutritionalists in a hospital to prescribe his patients the lifestyle that he himself has started to follow, and he's feeling conflicted, almost medical. As a doctor, he's supposed to do no harm, and yet all the diets have are loaded with sugar and grains, even in hospitals. And so it's a crazy story, but he's a believer now. A year later, best physical condition, you know, in many, many years, all really because of his own investigation of what I was doing when I was dropping the weight.
It's interesting you should say that. I just did an interview last week on Angriest Trainer podcast at VinnieTortorich.com with a guy named Daniel Tisi. I don't know if you've heard that interview yet, but he's a dietitian working in a hospital in Canada, and he's taking flack because, you know, they're telling the dietitians to tell people with diabetes to have more sugar and grains, which is the antithesis of what you should be telling these folks. As a matter of fact, I recorded with him yesterday, and somehow it got garbled, so I will be calling in to him right after this to re-record. That's how much I believe in this. The guy missed the recording. I'm giving him a second recording today just so that we could get it down, because this is what's going on in the medical community. These guys, he may lose his job at some point because he refuses to tell people what the medical community wants you to tell people, because he knows better.
God.
You know, and you know, look, back in 1981 and 82, when I was at Tulane University, which is a medical university, which is where I graduated from, you know, I would be in these classes, and you know, the professor would say, fat is our body's preferred fuel. Our bodies love to run on fat. So a very young Vinnie would write down, okay, our bodies like to run on fat. Okay, got it. And then they would say, but we need carbs if you want your body to, you know, if you want to run or do anything, you need carbs. And then I would raise my hand and go, wait, hang on, doc, you just said that our body's preferred fuel was fat. Now you're telling me I need more carbs if I want to go out for a run. Yeah. Well, what about the fat? Well, no. But you just said the fat, well, your brain needs fat to live. But you just said, and I would always have these professors running in circles going, please just shut up and listen. You know, they didn't
write
want
the notes down.
Nobody wanted to be challenged, but that was the beginning of me looking into this kind of, and there's all kinds of incredible studies that were happening before World War II and right after World War II, the famous Beaumont study. There's tons of great studies out there, and Gary Taubes does a great job of bringing those actual studies to light. And, you know, doctors used to, you know, I mean, that was the, if you want to cure epilepsy, put somebody in ketosis. It literally cures epilepsy.
Right.
Now, I don't believe that everybody have to be in ketosis, but if I had a kid, or if I was, you know, an epileptic, I would live in ketosis. Why take a medication when you could do it through diet?
Right.
You know, that's what drives me nuts about the medical community.
I want to.
So, Carol, you gonna let us talk guns, Carol?
You know what? And not just because we were putting you to sleep with the hormone talk. Yes, I am. But here's the thing: I've got Jen listening out there, and she's girls like guns too. She's listening on YouTube. She says, "Rock on, Wendy," and she loved the Wayne's World comment. But she's obviously a gun girl, and I don't want to disappoint our audience because I've been telling them that Vinnie is a gun guy, and so we could have him back on to talk a little more fitness and health and stuff. One thing before we go to guns for the end of wrap-up part, I do want to ask you, because I have heard you talk, what about in addition to what we eat? Supplements, what kind of vitamins? You mentioned vitamin D earlier. Just say something to us about that. Is it important, and what do you suggest?
I do believe that taking supplemental vitamins it's a very important part of our lives, only because we don't get complete vitamins anymore. You know, we're supposed to get all of our vitamins from food. We have environments around us where we don't get enough sun. That's why vitamin D is important. And even if you live in a place with sun, you're told to put on sunscreen, which means you're not getting the natural vitamin D. There's a lot of cases where our food has been bastardized enough to where people don't get the proper amount of A and C and all of the Bs we need every day. There's been studies that show that the reason we have an increase in cancer, which I'm a survivor of cancer, that we don't get enough of the B vitamins, and there's most of the essential vitamins are B, and that keys in. Can I talk about my own vitamin that I created recently?
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yes.
I started a company called Pure Vitamin Club, and here's why. I've been taking a multivitamin my entire life. Yet, besides the 13 essential vitamins, there's all kinds of stuff in there that are not vitamins. So I would go look around to see what it is. And one of the main ingredients is always silica, which is sand. You know, it's just a filler they put in vitamins so that it can be cheaper. There's also all of these excipients and flow agents so they can make them quicker, so it flows through the machine quicker. And if the vitamin is pressed together in a caplet, There's binders, which means you might see the whole pill in your toilet when you go to the bathroom. So I started looking into this, and then I started finding things like titanium dioxide, which can actually cause colon cancer, and magnesium stearate, which is horrible for your body. So the one thing you're taking to better yourself can actually screw you up. So I spent the past almost 2 years creating maybe the world's only vitamin that has nothing in it except the 13 essential vitamins and 11 key minerals, with literally no fillers whatsoever, no flow agents, no excipients, no titanium dioxide, none of the stuff that's in other vitamins. I brought it to market, and the way I was able to get it to market for a very low price was by not putting it on the shelf at a Whole Foods or at GNC. I decided just to make my own website, purevitaminclub.com, just to cut the price down, so I can mail it to people straight on, and it doesn't cost much. So you get the world's best vitamin for $10 a month. That's it.
That's pretty good. That's probably what we need. And that's girls, guys, younger people, older people, everybody?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, people want me to come out with a children's version of it. But the fact of the matter is, my vitamin is so pure that people who could never take vitamins before are taking them, and they're opening up the capsule and dumping them into water. It dissolves right into water, and you can drink it like that and still not get stomach upset. So some people are actually taking it, cutting it in half, and putting it in their kids' water in the morning to drink, or in their milk or what have you to drink, and they're getting it that way. And you can't taste it. It's just a pure vitamin. The stuff that makes your stomach upset is all of the other stuff that we don't include.
Oh, good night. Well, that's good. That's good to know. Okay, so there's I have a lot more questions, so we might have you back, please. But
I would come back on every day. I love you guys. I'm not kidding. Wendy will tell you I do other people's podcasts more than I do my own.
That's so great. That's so great, because I think it's important to have more perspective, more things in people's toolbox. I mean, things you're going to try, people you're going to listen to. We have a lot of people who are trying to find a filter right now, trying to find one guy for health and to listen to. And so the more we can expose them to people like yourself who've had success, and Jack right here is our proof that this stuff works for a lot of people. But I do want to, Jack, you guys need to talk a little bit about guns, or I'm gonna have a lot of people upset with me. Because those are first.
Cool, Vinnie, you said you started with guns when you were a lot younger. How did you first get exposed to it? I know you're from the South, so as am I. So I probably know the answer, but maybe the audience doesn't. So how did you get exposed to firearms and the whole gun thing?
Well, my grandfather was a hunter, and because back in his day, I'm pulling one of my guns out. Wendy, hold on.
I'm looking at this gun you're pulling out. If you're watching on YouTube,
I'm going to show you that in a second. But my grandfather was a gun guy, and he was a hunter, and they had to hunt just to get food on the table when he was a kid. They were poor Italians in the South. And very young, I had a Daisy BB gun. That was my first gun. I think I got it when I was 5 or 6. And I was taught the importance of, this is not a toy. This can put your eye out. This can hurt you. This can kill you. And that first gun, I had to be with my dad when I shot it, type of thing. And I was taught the respect of killing animals. I killed a sparrow with that gun, and my dad pulled me aside. It was kind of like an Opie moment when Opie shot the bird, the bird died in my hands, and my dad said, "This is not a bird you can eat." And I was like, "Eat? What are you talking about?" He goes, "You can't eat it, so you can't kill it." And we buried the bird, and it was, I was very upset about the whole thing. I had become a hunter after that, and realized that everything I killed had to be consumed. So you learn very young to only shoot what you can eat.
Nice.
I didn't kill another animal until I had my Benjamin 22 air rifle, and then I started squirrel hunting with that. I learned very quickly that I didn't like squirrel. I didn't like the way it tasted. But then I went rabbit hunting a couple of times with a borrowed 20 gauge shotgun, and I guess I was maybe 9 by that time. And I realized I loved lapin, as they say in Louisiana, a lot. I loved the rabbit. And then I quickly, I got invited onto a deer hunt and on and on. But along the way, it was always, I ended up borrowing a gun and then getting a gun for Christmas or whatever, to do the different sports. And that's how the collection of guns kind of started. And I still have those early guns. I don't know where the Daisy BB gun is. I still have that original Benjamin pellet gun. I have all of the 22s I've ever owned. I have my first Mossberg 20 gauge. I have them all. They're all in Louisiana, but I have a few of them here also. But that's the beginning.
What's it like being a gun guy in a state that's not exactly known for being gun friendly?
In California, huh?
It's ridiculous, to be honest with you. In order to buy, let's say I was in Louisiana today, and I walked into Cabela's. I can, purchase a gun, and they will do like a background check. I think it takes about 20 minutes. They will put your name in a computer, realize that I'm not a criminal, and hand me said gun. And I get to go out, walk out of the store with my gun. The only part I don't like about that is during that 20 minutes, you got to walk around the store and you end up buying stuff you don't need. In California, if I bought a gun today, and let's say right now it's 11:36, I cannot get that gun until 11 days from now, and I can't walk in at 10:45 and get that gun. I have to wait until 11 days at 11:36 before they will hand me that gun. That's one of the many rules. Let me give you. Can I give you a better one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never owned the actual gun that I think it's an M-frame Smith & Wesson, one of the larger frames. The 44 mag. I've never owned it in black with the wooden handle, just like Dirty Harry. And I decided a couple of years ago just to go get one just for nostalgia purposes, because I have the 357, which a lot of people will tell you is what Dirty Harry actually had in his hands. They didn't give him the 44 mag. It was a 357. There's big arguments. I don't know if you guys know that over at Gun Talk Radio, because that's always been an argument.
I didn't know that.
You can learn something from a fitness guy about guns. But I wanted to buy the 44 mag in blue, the blue, gun with the wooden stock, and you can't get that one in California. Why? Because they only make a limited amount of 44 mags in the large frame at Smith & Wesson every year, because it's a gun no one actually buys anymore. And you could get the stainless steel version of it here, but they would have to. The government makes them register the other gun as a whole different gun because it's a different color. Can you imagine that? Yeah. So Smith & Wesson says we make so few of these every year. I guess 1,500, 2,000 or whatever. Why go through all that? We won't make the money back in California. So you can get it. You can get the caliber in stainless steel, but you cannot get it in a blued look at all. That's California.
Wow. So what's your favorite? I know you're a shotgunner, but is that your preferred shooting sport, or what do you like to do?
One of my favorite things to do is 22s. I have an Anschutz 22, the kind you see in the Olympics, and I like going out and shooting those because there is nothing more accurate, period, at the distance. And I just like put holes into paper, and people come up to you on the range a lot and they'll go, what the hell is that? Because everybody wants the ARs now, the Buckmaster AR and all that. But they see a guy and it looks like an impressive gun, and then when they find out it's a 22, they kind of walk away, sulk away. But I like doing that. I love shooting pistols. I did 500 rounds with my 357 the other day, and with my 45 ACP, combined 500 rounds, because it gets so expensive now to shoot anything. I don't know what ammunition is like for you guys, but It's expensive as hell. But if you said you can only do one thing for the next year, it would be skeet and trap.
Right. So when you go shoot, are you having any problems finding 22 ammunition out in California? Because in Texas, I can buy almost anything more readily available than 22 long rifle. It's crazy right now.
It is. It's hard to get anything. Usually, I shoot the high grade stuff, like the ELA stuff and all that stuff. So I usually order it on the internet, and you can get what you want.
Right.
You pay more for it than you really should ever have to pay for it. Everything seems to be tough to get. I have my shotgun loader set up right here in my office, and I can tell you right now, I have reclaimed shot in it, because just getting lead at a price for shotgun shells is crazy. You know, when you got to consider that we're digging it out of the hillside now to shoot it again, there's a problem. You know.
So what's your favorite shotgun to shoot? I know you got it out a minute ago. I was just kind of curious. Are you an over and under guy? Are you an automatic guy? What do you shoot?
I like shooting my crag barrels. The one I have in my hand right now, I wanted to show you this because I've been working on this stock for a while. It's an older one of my older Berettas. Can you see it?
Yeah.
It's an over and under. I think this one is here. I got to put my glasses on. I think it's a 686, but it's a field grade gun. It's the 687 gold. So they made it as a field grade gun. And it turns out that I love shooting it on skeet. The barrel's just right. This gun has been shot, it's got to be shot, I don't know, a couple of 100,000 times. And it still works. It's only been worked on once. And I've been working on the stock for it. I don't know if you can see it, but I've been carving on the stock myself.
Wow.
That I bought the wood, and of course I cut it here so that I can raise it a bit so it can fit my cheek just right. And I actually, you can't see it here, but I actually cut the groove in it so that it literally, Wendy could tell you, it fits my hand like a glove.
Perfect.
And I created a palm swell in there. I'm just very proud of what I've done with the stock. I still haven't put any color or any paint on it. I may just leave it natural like this because it's got all of my cheek oil and my hand oil on it. But it's not protected.
Start with like a raw stock, and get it into the shape that it's in now, or what does it start looking like?
It was a blank that came from a company because I don't have the wherewithal or the tools to make it fit the gun. That would just take a lot. So you can find these companies that you can buy the blanks from, and it literally, you got to do a little chipping. I have some wood tools where I can, make it fit better than factory and all that good stuff. And then the rest is just filing and sandpaper, and then lighter sandpaper, and then steel wool, and so on and so forth. But it's a labor of love because it's hours and hours and hours just to get it to fit your cheek, your cheekbone, your hand. That's the kind of stuff I'm into, is getting it just right.
Awesome. Well, it's interesting, Vinnie, because my journey to get in better shape actually started because of shooting. Long story, but I grew up in sports and the whole deal, football, just like you, the whole thing. But just years of being on the road and sales and a lot of other things, eating bad food and no exercise had taken their toll. And I actually started I got interested in one of the fastest growing shooting sports right now called 3-gun, and part of 3-gun is quite frankly is running around. And first time I did it, I was huffing and puffing and couldn't find my sights and couldn't aim, and I felt like I could spend all the money in the world on equipment, but if I can't breathe, this is going to be a problem. And that's actually where it kind of all started, and it's been a fun ride. I've actually become increasingly more interested in fitness than firearms, although I still have my collection and add to it more frequently than my wife would probably like. But it's a good combination, quite frankly.
3-gun has that single action on the pistol, right?
No, it's typically 3-gun is typically like a Glock or something. I was going to show you. This is my so if you can see this. Where's my camera?
Go up this is there it is.
This is a Smith & Wesson Shield M&P 9mm, and I use this not for 3-gun. This is a everyday gun for me here, but this is kind kind of here's in Texas, they ask you they don't scrutinize you if you carry, they scrutinize you if you don't. So
Yeah.
little crazy in this state, but
everybody come
it's
to
interesting.
Texas.
I want to come to Texas.
Come on,
Well, you have to drive through on your way down south. You have to drive to get home. I know you have to drive through here. So
I love Texas. What part of Texas are you guys in?
Jackson, College Station, A&M land, and I'm further south east than that. I'm in Houston.
Well, you're near where I grew up in Louisiana.
Yeah, we go over there to gamble.
Yeah.
About 3 hours away, yeah.
Well, Jack, you're very close to a guy who I talk to all the time. I've actually met him a couple of times. A couple of guys are in College Station who do podcasts. You might want to look into these guys. One of them is
a big triathlete guy.
Yeah, Brett Blankner.
Yeah.
That guy has Zen in the Art of Triathlon. Brett Blankner. He's a cool guy. And there's another guy, Stephen Baldridge. I think he's in College Station. He actually teaches in College Station. I actually taught a course for him over Skype to his class about a year ago.
And what is Stephen's podcast? What is he teaching?
I think it's called Plant Run Family.
Okay.
And it's in a Christian college, and he teaches health or something in the college.
How interesting.
Really cool guy.
Can I ask you real quick one other health thing? Because we're hearing the healthy fat, and we know we don't probably need as much protein if you cut out the grains. A lot of people go overboard protein. Are you on board with that? That going way high protein is probably not the answer either. I know. I'm sorry about not talking about guns for a second.
Carol, you probably asked the most important question that you've asked in this whole interview. And don't worry, Jack, we're going to get back to guns in a second because
we're over the hour, guys.
Shake over here.
Go ahead.
Nothing goes with an hour with me ever. Too much protein can be converted to a sugar and then into a long-chain triglyceride and stored as a fat.
All right.
That's just a short answer to it. We as a nation, we're so over protein because somehow we bought into the fact that protein means healthy, because it's the building block of muscles, and every tissue in your body is built on an amino acid, a protein. But there is no reason to take in supplemental protein of any sort. We use it sometimes when you do ultras because you're on a bike for X number of hours and it's hard to get yourself, a steak or a scrambled egg. So, we'll use powdered protein for that kind of stuff. But in real life, there is no reason to supplement with it or try to eat too much of it. I think what I'm hearing in your question, though, Carol, is you're worried about if you're cutting out all the carbs, what should you eat?
Yes.
Fill out your vitamin with, as much vegetation as you can, as much red meat as you can afford, as much chicken and poultry. You're down in Houston, you could get something I can't get here. You could get frog legs and you could get alligator tail. I can't get that here. You have all kinds of great protein choices that I grew up and I love. They're great proteins, but don't worry about over-proteining. Go with as much vegetation as you can. Fill it out with meat. Fill it out with chicken, eggs. If you can handle dairy, not everyone can handle dairy. But if you can handle dairy, you could do a little bit of that. I do a lot of heavy whipping cream in my coffee. That will not make you fat. Unless you're putting 4 or 5 ounces of whipping cream per cup of coffee, which we've had that happen too.
And that's what Jack's doing right now. He told me.
Not 4 or 5, but it's gotten out of hand. When I first started listening, I was doing no dairy until I started actually listening to Vinnie. I said, well, that's why I like this guy. I can have some dairy now. But I will tell you that I think that all of that stuff can get out of hand, especially the dairy if you're not careful. At least in my experience. But it sure does make a cup of coffee better, though.
It does, but you can't do anything with impunity. This woman was losing weight. I think she was in Texas too. She was on the other side of Texas, which is like a different country. Mm-hmm. Her name was Gabriella. I'll never forget. She was one of my phone callers, and she kept saying, I use heavy cream. And then we kept talking, and she would say half and half, and then heavy cream and half and half. And I said, so do you use heavy cream and half and half? She goes, no, I use heavy cream. I said, well, why are you telling me half and half? That's a product. And she says, no, I put half heavy cream and half coffee. And she was having 5 or 6 cups of coffee a day. We figured out that she was having, I think, 18 ounces of heavy cream a day, and she couldn't figure out why she wasn't losing any weight.
Okay. That's it. So it's not all about the macros. It's some calories start to matter at some point.
Absolutely. Although people like that guy Feldham, I can't think of his first name right now. If you can help me, Jack, what was Feldham's first name?
I don't know. I'm trying to think of it.
Jason Feldham, maybe? I don't know. Jack Feldham. Anyway, he's the guy who did 5,000 of carbohydrates for 21 days and gained weight, and then he did 5,000 calories of only fat for 21 days and lost weight.
Yeah.
He's done these crazy experiments, but again, if you want to stand up again, it shows that N=1 experiment shirt, that's what he was doing. But it was just interesting to see what the results were.
Yeah. Everybody's different. Everybody's different.
Yeah.
And so I think you're right. Well, I don't know. One more gun question over there, JT. So you better honor the man's time and wrap up. But I know you had a bunch of gun questions.
Come on.
Well, I didn't know where to go. So when you don't shoot your shotgun, Vinny, and you don't shoot your 22, so then you prefer revolvers over semi-automatic handguns, or do you have a semi-automatic handgun? Do you get into shooting those at all?
I like the 45 ACP. I'm not brand specific on it. I think Springfield makes a lot of great guns at the price. I'm a 1911 guy. You couldn't give me a Glock. I don't like the way they feel. I don't feel like I can hit anything with them. I would have a better chance of hurting someone if I just took the gun and threw it at them. I don't get the Glock. I do kind of get the SIG, which makes a similar type of gun.
Right.
But I don't get the Glock, and don't ask me why. And people say, oh, try the 19 because the grip is different, or try the I like the ACP. It's heavy. I like the longer barrel on it. I wish I can afford 2 or 3 of those Kimbers, the higher end ones, or a Masbear, or one of those. But I don't have that kind of money. Or if I did, I would have to pretend there was a Springfield in my house.
So here's a suggestion for you if you get a chance. The Smith & Wesson M&P, and this is not a paid advertisement. I don't own a Glock. I'm with you. I appreciate them. I just can't. They don't feel right in my hand. I don't like the way they shoot. And so when Smith & Wesson was pursuing the police market and all that, and they knew they were competing with Glocks, they started from scratch. And the M&P is supposedly supposed to have the same or similar grip angle to 1911. I have some 1911s, but all of my semi-automatic handguns that are not 1911s are Smith & Wesson M&Ps, and I have them in compact. I have them in the long frame. I mean the Pro as well. So if you haven't shot one, they're really cool, and they feel a lot like a 1911, but you end up with your more magazine capacity, which I know you probably can't do in California, but that's worth.
Oh God, no! The word clip. You can't even use the word clip out here with these libs. I was at. I have a really close friend named Steve, and every time there's a school shooting, God forbid we address that. It could be a mental problem. We have to go right to gun control. And we were having dinner with Steve, and Steve was waxing poetic about gun clips and gun clips and gun clips. And finally, I knew Steve doesn't know anything about guns because I said doesn't. I meant to say don't know anything about guns, because the only time he shot a gun is when I took him to the range to shoot a shotgun. So I said, Steve, well, tell me about these clips. He goes, well, these clips are made to kill people. I said, really? Do you know what a clip is? Well, it's a device that causes people to be able to kill more people. And yeah. I said, do you understand that a clip is nothing but something that holds bullets? And he said, but it's made to kill more people. Yeah. I said, so why aren't you guys going after the quick release that I use in my revolvers? what's a quick release? I said, it's a thing so that you can, cops have them back when they used revolvers. I own a few of them that you could just drop and click, and you can shoot another 6-7 rounds depending on what you got. Well, what is this quick release thing you speak of? I went, it's an easy loader. It's they don't get it. They hear clip on the news. They go listen to Rachel Maddow. They hear clip. They go listen to, what's his name, the comedian who acts like a news guy. Help me out.
Jonathan Stewart or
Jon Stewart. Yeah. Oh, clip. Oh, clip. And then next thing you know, all the libs hear clip, and they go, oh, clips kill people. No, people kill people.
Right.
No kidding.
Take a clip, unless you shove it down someone's throat and choke them on it, it ain't going to kill anybody. Last time I checked. I don't want to get off on a rant here, but come on.
Well, so as a guy that could what's your if you're going to teach somebody to shoot outside of safety, which we all know how important that is. That's kind of how we all grew up. Those of us who grew up around households with firearms in them, but outside of the safety side of it, what's the one word of advice you'd give somebody if you were teaching them to shoot?
The first thing I tell everyone when I pull the gun out, I used to teach it at my shooting club in New Orleans when I was growing up. There's two pieces of advice. Back then, I was teaching with the shotgun, and I would have the shotgun broken down. And I would hold up the barrel with the stock, the fore end on it, and I would say, what do I have here? And a kid would raise his hand and go, you have a gun. And then I would say, no, I don't. I have a piece of steel and a piece of wood. You can't do anything. I would have a better chance of playing baseball with this than, shooting someone with it. This is just a piece of steel and a piece of wood. And then I would show them the back end of the gun. And I go, what do I have here? Now they're all confused. And I would say, this is the gun. But this without that is nothing. You have to have the two together. And I would start right there. I didn't want anyone to have a fear of a gun or some kind of fascination of a gun. It's kind of like when you tell your kids about drugs, you don't say, hey, this stuff will make you high, make you feel good. You start back at the beginning and explain why and what it is. The same thing now when I go out, it's usually, Beverly Hills Tootsies who want to learn how to shoot a handgun because everyone wants to learn how to shoot a handgun now. And I was just at the range with a woman and her son last week, and they want to get into it, and they want to shoot the 1911s, and they want to shoot the Glocks and the whole thing. So I always start them with one of my revolvers, and usually the 38, because there's no kick, and it's a long barrel, and it's really smooth, and it's really accurate, and they can hit something. And I start them with that, and I teach everyone that a gun never knows its master. No matter how well you think you know that gun, the gun never knows you. And it will kill you on the 2000th day as quickly as it will kill you on day number 1. Wow. But since it's a tool that we have in our hand and we get very familiar with, sometimes we think the gun knows us as well as we know the gun, but the gun never knows us. And I spend a lot of time explaining that. And then having them feel comfortable with the revolver. It's a 2-stage revolver, and I have them play with that a bunch and have them shoot without the second, just straight on and then pulling the hammer back. And once I feel that they're comfortable with that, then I'll move them to a 1911 and let them play with that for a while. And that's confusing for people. The first thing they do is they try to put the bullets in backwards into that clip. Jack, you know what I'm talking about. It's like, and you're looking at them going, how can they not know? But you play with that for a while and you teach them that, and then they get comfortable with that. And that's kind of a first lesson for me with the guns. Just all safety, let them play with the stuff, let them feel it. Wendy, who's sitting right here, I taught her how to shoot a shotgun, and she finally hit a clay. She lucked out and finally hit a clay after like 25 shots or whatever. And she turned around to celebrate, pointing a loaded gun at me. And I had to say to her, hey, whoa, take it easy there, pumpkin. That gun can go again. Wow. There was a second barrel on that gun. So, every now and then, you make these mistakes, but they're happy mistakes because she ended up not killing me and she learned a good lesson.
Right.
That's right. Right. Well, I could do this. I could do this all afternoon, Vinnie, and I can't even tell you how thrilled that it's been to get to chat with you. And Carol, thanks for letting me participate.
Oh, are you kidding? You're a resident expert. But thankfully, we're all going to be kind of experts here because you really are, Vinny. You're a great guy to follow. It's a lot of no BS. That whole world's angriest trainer, that's just that you're angry about the misinformation, right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not angry at you. I'm not Jillian Michaels. I'm not going to yell at you on a treadmill. I'm angry for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so we have the links in the show notes. Today's show notes are at Fat2Fit, that's number 2, Fat2FitHQ.com/110, because this is episode 110, or they will be when this podcast drops. And, we have the VinnieTortorich.com. What else would you tell people on where to find you or what to look for or how to follow you?
Easy to follow me at VinnieTortorich.com. And, iTunes, they can find me there. If you just Google Vinnie Tortorich, it all kind of comes up.
That's awesome.
But, PureVitaminClub.com, it's so new that it might not come up immediately. But if you put in Pure Vitamin Club, all 3 words.com, it will come up. It's the best vitamin deal on the market. It's a top-end vitamin. You will see what that is. There's tons of free advice out there at VinnieTortorich.com, or you could go to the Vinnie Tortorich Athletes page on Facebook. That's the one that I own. And we put stuff up there so you're always informed.
Great. We'll have those links in the show notes, so everybody, you'll find that. We already have some links to you on our Facebook page. Please check us out, everybody. Our MyFitnessPal community, we're having some challenges in there right now to get us through December, and everybody's having a lot more success. And with Vinny's tips, we've got this covered. So thanks again for the iTunes review. I do want to read a couple of iTunes reviews just real quick because they're so important, and we really appreciate the reviews. Hammer Jammer, who we know who that is, he put, "Back to basics. Your podcast continues to inspire folks to find their answer to the big mystery of health, fitness, and wellness. Keep it up and keep on jamming. Thanks for the 5 stars, Hammer Jammer." And then AC Dude said, "This show changed my life." He gave us 5 stars. Also an awesome podcast that provides great motivation for living a healthier lifestyle, and the guests share a wealth of knowledge for that journey from fat to fit. We really appreciate that. We appreciate you guys all inspiring each other. More than everything, it's the community. It's helping people figure out how to keep their head in the game. And Vinny, you've been a big part of that today. We can't thank you enough, and thank you, JT, both, because we just need more of this. We need more hearing the good message so that we keep on that journey to figuring out what works.
Well, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And the gun talk, that's a golden.
I want to go on those shows, some of the gun shows.
There's a lot of crossover. Practically Tactical, Nick Humphreys needs to hear about you because he's looking for help right now, and he could talk guns with you all day long, and then tell him to get his act together on the fitness side. He's wanting help with that too. And then we'll get you in touch with Jake Challen, all those guys. You'd be a great guest for any of our roundtable shows just to talk firearms, and So we love your crossover. We love that you're both. Thank you. And thank Wendy for us too, Vinny.
They're thanking you, Wendy. I don't know if you could hear them.
No, I couldn't.
There she is.
Hi, guys.
Thanks.
Yes, she's a huge inspiration. Okay, we'll talk to you guys soon. We'll send all the links out when the show drops in a few days.
Thanks, Carol.
Thank you.
Thanks,
everybody. Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks, Vinny.